Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Behind the Fame. What you are about to see is the result of a months-long investigation, piecing together court documents, financial records, and most crucially, first-hand accounts from confidential sources close to the Roloff family and Chris Marek himself. We must state clearly, Amy Roloff and his husband Chris Marek. According to our confidential sources, Chris Marek has been secretly involved with multiple women. He has been seen meeting his girlfriends at various restaurants, revealing the complexity of his personal life. The story does not end here. According to confidential sources, Chris Marek became entangled in nearly $270,000 of debt through online gambling platforms. As he failed to repay the debt, a lawsuit was filed against him, and he was subsequently arrested. With this truth exposed, the situation turned even more tragic. Finally today, Amy Roloff divorced her husband Chris Marek. The story we are about to tell is built on evidence and corroborated testimonies. The picture it paints is one of profound heartbreak. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper, a rumor. For those in the inner circle, the first cracks began to appear subtly in early 2023. Chris Marek, always a presence on Amy's social media, began to seem distant. His appearances became less frequent, more staged. It was little things you'd notice if you knew them. Chris, who was always so attentive to Amy at family gatherings, would be glued to his phone. And not just scrolling. He'd be typing intensely. And if Amy came near, he'd quickly minimize the screen or put it away. He started taking a lot of business trips or meeting clients at odd hours. Evenings, late nights. For a real estate broker in a relatively quiet market, his work schedule became suspiciously hectic. At first, these changes were written off as the stresses of a new business, or perhaps the natural ebb and flow of a marriage. But then, the whispers grew louder. Our investigation spoke to multiple sources who independently reported seeing Chris Marek in compromising situations with women who were not his wife. According to our confidential sources, these weren't chance encounters. They were pre-planned meetings at discreet, high-end restaurants and bars away from the Roloff farm's public eye. Locations like the River's End Grill in Oregon City and the Shadowbrook Lounge in Wilsonville. Places where Chris Marek apparently felt he could move without being recognized. He came in maybe 3-4 times over a few months. Always midweek, always between 2 and 4 p.m. A slow period. And he was never with the same woman. They were different. All well-dressed, professional types. He paid in cash every time. Always sat in the booth in the back corner, the one with the most privacy. It was clear he didn't want to be seen. As staff, you notice these things. You see a guy on TV with his wife, and then he's in your restaurant with another woman. You put it together. The most damning account comes from a source who claims to have witnessed an intimate moment between Chris and one of these women. I was having a business lunch at the Veranda downtown. I saw Chris at the bar. He wasn't with Amy. He was with a blonde woman, and they were very close. Laughing, touching. He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a peck on the cheek. It was intimate. I was shocked. I'm a fan of the show. I quickly looked away, but the image was burned in my mind. I thought about telling Amy, but how? I didn't have proof. I didn't want to be the one to blow up her life based on what I saw. When confronted with these allegations by our team, Chris Marek's legal counsel issued a blanket denial, calling them defamatory fiction from anonymous and unreliable sources. But if these accounts of infidelity were the first act of this tragedy, the second act was already unfolding in the shadows of the internet. And it was far more financially devastating. While Chris Marek was allegedly cultivating a secret social life, he was also cultivating a dangerous secret habit. One that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from the privacy of a smartphone. Online gambling. According to financial documents and legal filings obtained by our investigators, Christopher Marek became deeply entangled with a network of online sports betting and casino platforms. What began as casual betting, a little fun, spiraled into a full-blown addiction. Our investigation traced debts totaling nearly $270,000 across 3 major platforms. The patterns in the transaction histories, seen by our sources, are textbook addiction. Small deposits initially, then larger and larger sums, frantic attempts to chase losses, and finally, massive, desperate bets in a futile attempt to dig himself out of the hole he had created. He'd take out cash advances on his credit cards to fund the accounts. The statements were brutal. You could see the panic in the transactions. $50 here, $100 there, then suddenly $5,000. Then silence for a few days. Then it would start again, even bigger. He was drowning. The question screaming to be answered is, how did Amy not know? Sources close to the couple indicate that Chris was meticulous in keeping this part of his life hidden. He maintained separate bank accounts from Amy, a fact that was initially framed as a practical decision for his real estate business. It now appears to have been a strategic one for concealing his gambling cash flow. He would allegedly conduct his gambling late at night, after Amy had gone to bed, or from his office under the guise of working. The stress, however, began to bleed into their married life. Amy started complaining to close friends that Chris was irritable, distracted, that he was having trouble sleeping. She blamed it on work stress. She asked him what was wrong, and he just shut down, tell her everything was fine, that he was just tired. She wanted to believe him. She loved him. But the man she married was becoming a stranger, withdrawn, secretive, and short-tempered. The house of cards, however, was destined to collapse. Online gambling operators are not charitable institutions. When debts go unpaid, they employ collection agencies, and when those fail, they turn to the legal system. In late October 2023, one of the major platforms, BetMasters, filed a lawsuit against Chris Merrick in Multnomah County Circuit Court for the outstanding sum of $118,450. The filing itself was a dry, legal document, but it was a ticking time bomb. According to our sources, process servers attempted to deliver the lawsuit to the Roloff farm on multiple occasions. He was avoiding service. He knew it was coming. His email inbox was full of final demand notices from the company's legal team. He'd ignore the knocks at the door if Amy wasn't home. He was trying to figure a way out, but there was no way out. You can't hide from a court order. The inevitable finally happened. On the morning of November 17, 2023, a process server caught Chris Merrick as he was leaving his real estate office. He was formally served with the lawsuit. The game was up. The document, now in his hands, was a stark, paper and ink reality of his secret life. But the situation was about to go from bad to catastrophic. Being served with a lawsuit is a civil matter. But what happened next turned it into a criminal one. The lawsuit included a motion for a debtor's examination, a court hearing where Chris would be forced, under oath, to disclose his assets, income, and bank accounts to find a way to repay the debt. Faced with the utter humiliation of this prospect, the idea of his financial ruin becoming a public court record, and worse, having to explain it all to Amy, Chris Merrick made a fateful decision. He ignored it. He failed to appear at the scheduled court hearing. The judge, upon motion from the plaintiff's lawyers, found Chris Merrick in contempt of court for failing to appear. The court then issued a bench warrant for his arrest. On the evening of December 5, 2023, Washington County Sheriff's deputies, acting on the warrant, arrived at the home Chris shared with Amy on the Roloff farm. It was a routine warrant service. No one expected a standoff. They knocked, identified themselves. Chris answered. He was cooperative, but obviously in complete shock. He thought he could just ignore it and it would go away. He didn't understand the severity. Amy was there. The look on her face, our source described it as pure, unadulterated confusion that quickly turned to horror. Chris Merrick was placed in handcuffs on his front porch, read his rights, and placed in the back of a patrol car. He was taken to the Washington County Jail, booked, and processed. He was charged with contempt of court for failure to appear at a debtor's examination. He spent a single night in jail before a bail bondsman posted a secured bond for his release. But the damage was irreparable. The secret was out. The betrayal was no longer about whispered rumors or suspicious text messages. It was now a matter of public record. There was a police report. There was a mugshot. There was the visceral, unforgettable image of her husband being led away in handcuffs from the home they built together. That was the moment the Amy everyone knew left. The trust was annihilated. It wasn't just the debt. It wasn't just the arrest. It was the lies. The months and months of lies. Every late-night meeting, every excuse, every time he was on his phone. It all came crashing down on her in that instant. She was humiliated. She was heartbroken. She was furious. Friends described the days that followed as a state of siege. The Roloff farm, once a symbol of family and openness, became a fortress. Blinds were drawn. Cars came and went. Family, lawyers, close friends offering support. Amy was utterly devastated, moving between fits of crying and stunned, numb silence. Chris, reportedly remorseful and begging for forgiveness, was asked to leave the property. He moved into a short-term rental apartment in Portland. The chasm between them was now physical as well as emotional. In the weeks following the arrest, Amy Roloff went radio silent. There were no cheerful Instagram posts, no updates on the farm, no podcast recordings. The world knew something was wrong, but the full extent was not yet public. Behind the scenes, she was surrounded by her children, particularly Zach and Tori, who were a constant source of support, and her lawyers. She faced an impossible dilemma. The man she loved, the man she vowed to spend the rest of her life with, had constructed an elaborate world of deceit beneath her feet. The financial betrayal was staggering. The alleged infidelity, if true, was a knife to the heart. The public humiliation was overwhelming. It was a triage situation. The first step was financial. Amy's team had to immediately legally separate their finances to protect her assets, her share of the farm, her future. Prenuptial agreements were discussed, but the complexity of the debt and its origin made it a legal nightmare. The second step was emotional. She was grieving. She was grieving the loss of her marriage, the loss of the future she thought she had, and the loss of the man she thought Chris was. They are two different people. Our sources indicate that Chris Murrick, from his temporary apartment, launched a full-scale campaign for reconciliation. He admitted to the gambling addiction and claimed he was seeking help. He reportedly denied the allegations of physical infidelity, characterizing the restaurant meetings as business dinners that looked bad out of context. He begged for a chance to go to rehab, to go to counseling, to fix what he had broken. But for Amy, the trust was too shattered. Every word out of his mouth was now suspect. How could she believe his denials about the women when he had lied so effortlessly about everything else? The foundation of their relationship had proven to be rotten. There would be no reconciliation. There would be no second chance. After weeks of agony, consultation, and soul-searching, Amy Roloff made the hardest decision of her life. She filed for divorce. The court documents cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for the split, the standard, neutral language used in most divorces. But the world now knew the tragic, painful truth behind those two words. Filing those papers destroyed her. But she knew it was the only path forward. She couldn't live in a house of lies anymore. She's a strong woman, a woman of faith, but this broke her in a way Matt Roloff never did. This was a betrayal of a different magnitude. She gave him her absolute trust, and he exploited it. The divorce isn't what she wanted, but it was the only option he left her. As of the making of this documentary, the divorce proceedings between Amy Roloff and Chris Murrick are ongoing. It will be a complex process, untangling the financial web that Chris spun, determining the division of assets, and formally ending a marriage that millions of people around the world invested in and believed in. The human cost, however, is immeasurable. Amy Roloff is now tasked with rebuilding her life, for a second time, in the public eye. The narrative of her later life love story has been rewritten into a cautionary tale about betrayal. Through it all, those closest to Amy say her resilience is beginning to shine through. She is leaning on her family. She is focusing on her grandchildren, her charity work, and the simple, honest comforts of the farm. The woman who taught America so much about overcoming adversity based on her stature is now teaching an unintended, but powerful, lesson about overcoming adversity of the heart. As for Chris Merrick, his future is uncertain. He faces significant financial liability, a ruined public reputation, and the personal consequences of his actions. His addiction, a disease that he hid instead of treating, cost him everything. The fairy tale is over. The cameras have stopped rolling on this chapter of Amy Roloff's life. What remains is the painful, unvarnished truth. A truth of secret addictions, alleged affairs, and a heartbreaking arrest that shattered a marriage. But it is also a story of survival. Amy Roloff's world was built on a foundation of love, family, and authenticity. And while one storm has managed to tear down a part of it, the foundation remains. And from that foundation, she will rebuild. What do you think about this shocking story? Let us know in the comments below. More update. Amy Roloff and her husband, Chris Merrick from Little People, Big World, are enjoying life in their dream home, recently sharing beautiful photos that gave fans a glimpse inside. Amy also addressed concerns about her father after a false death hoax spread online, assuring everyone he is doing well. Meanwhile, fans have been critical of Chris Merrick, questioning some of his behavior and decisions, sparking debate among viewers. To add to the drama, Amy revealed that she recently caught a trespasser on her property, an incident that left her upset and protective of her home. I will explain everything. Never miss this video. Before going to the main topic, I would like to say, like this video, and please subscribe to the channel. LPBW, Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick's dream home pics. Amy Roloff used to live in a huge house on Roloff Farms, but she downsized after she sold it. She and Chris Merrick lived in a modest home, by comparison, but they have a dream house in mind. In July last year, she said that she and her husband were actively looking for another home. Little People, Big World fans know that Chris dreams big, and his idea of a perfect home is a far cry from their current home. And, on Tuesday, TLC fans saw them tour their potential retirement home. Matt's ex married Chris in 2021, and they moved into her $600,000 home. In time, Matt did up the old place and turned it into a rental, which made his ex-wife raise her eyebrows. Since then, he also built a new dream home for himself and his fiancée, Karen Chandler. Did that inspire Amy's husband to look around for something more glamorous to live in? Amy Roloff gets accused by LPBW fans of creating fake drama with Chris Merrick, Matt Roloff, and Karen Chandler. Well, if they do it to keep the TLC show going, they might need to keep it up if they want to buy their dream home. Even with their combined net worth, buying and maintaining the house they want could be a touch heavy on the pocket. Little People, Big World revealed the bike-riding TLC star looking at a property that he would love to live in. The kitchen alone would suit his wife, and he could probably park a whole row of motorbikes in the 6-car garage. The idea, he said, was to combine a home with space to host events. Certainly, there would be tons of room for all the grandchildren to visit at Christmas time. People noted as much as she loved the 10,000 square foot house, Amy Roloff has her reservations about the budget needed to buy it. She said, "I'm worried that this house is a little outside our budget, but it's good to look at and see." If Chris Merrick gets his way, and the Little People, Big World mom of 4 falls in love with it, she could use the huge kitchen to continue Amy's little kitchen. As far as he's concerned, it's better not to rush a refusal. So he argued, "I think the first step is to see if we like it, and if we do, work out how we pay for it." And yes, he mentioned Matt and Karen with their dream house. Amy might feel like they will rattle around the giant space because it could take a lot of people to fill it. Still, the dreamy views look really nice. And another factor is that she lived in a big house before. So she will probably get used to the new home quickly. Remember the amount of things she stored in the old home on the farm. Fans accused her of being a hoarder. On Reddit, One Little People, Big World fan claimed they tracked the home down going on the description that Chris Merrick gave. If they got it right, it's not a cheap home. In their comment, they said, the house that A and C toured was listed for $1.4 million. There was only one picture on Zillow for the property but lots on Realtor. I'm not going to give out the exact address here, but it was super easy to sleuth out. What are your thoughts about the dream home that LPBW star Chris Merrick is keen on? Do you feel that Amy Roloff is right to be cautious about such a big property? After all, it's meant to be their retirement home, but she said that she didn't want to work until she was 85 to pay for it. Amy Roloff shares update on dad after death hoax. Little People Big World cast member Amy Roloff recently shared an update on her dad, following the recent death hoax that made the rounds. So how is Amy's father doing today? And what did she have to say based on this recent update? Not too long ago, a Little People Big World death hoax made the rounds, alleging that Amy Roloff's dad had passed away. A lot of people believed this when it began to circulate, mainly because Amy's dad is 96 and definitely up there in age. The good thing is, it did not take Amy Roloff very long to address the rumor and debunk it. Despite all the claims alleging that her father had passed, Amy told her Little People Big World followers that her father was alive and well, and fans were glad to hear this. With things like Little People Big World getting canceled and no longer filming, this has opened up a lot of time in the schedules of people like Amy Roloff, Matt Roloff, and even Chris Merrick. In Amy's case, one of the things she has had more time to do is to visit her family in Michigan, including her dad. Amy Roloff has been visiting her dad in Michigan, and she even gave her followers a health update on him based on the latest updates from her making the rounds. According to Amy, she shared a story on Instagram with her dad. In addition to sharing a picture of the pair, Amy wrote, "My dad's still going strong and hanging in there at 96, so blessed to have another visit with him." Along with that, Amy also wrote, "In the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at the cabin." The vast majority of Little People Big World fans love to see updates like this from Amy Roloff. Not only is she getting quality time in, but she is also able to enjoy Michigan with her dad. After everything that happened with the death hoax, viewers are glad to see Amy's dad alive and well as enjoying life. Even though most Little People Big World fans agree that updates like this are never going to be the same as getting full episodes as part of a TLC season, Roloff family fans still enjoy getting updates like these, as this is a way for followers to still stay in the loop regarding everything that Amy and other cast members have going on. What do you think about this recent update from Amy and her dad? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. LPBW fans rip Amy Roloff's husband, Chris Merrick. Why? Little People Big World celeb Amy Roloff met her eventual husband, Chris Merrick, back in 2016. The pair met at a mixer event and really hit it off. At that time, Amy was finalizing her divorce from Matt Roloff, and she wanted to give dating a shot. Amy and Matt Roloff were married for 28 years. By that point, they were both far removed from being back on the dating scene. Even so, Amy wanted to try her luck and get back out there. It didn't take her long to find Chris Merrick. All these years later, they have certainly made things work. Chris Merrick even has a bromance with Amy's ex, Matt. Amy Roloff and Chris Merrick have been married since 2021, as they officially tied the knot in August of that year. On the surface, they seem to have a happy and thriving marriage. Chris has blended in with the family, and he has even made an effort to bond with Zach and Tori Roloff's young children. Chris has even appeared in Little People Big World scenes, when Amy and Chris aren't filming for TLC or enjoying each other's company at home. They often take trips to exotic, international locations. Recently, they jetted off to Ireland to enjoy some time in the Emerald Isle. On paper, everything looks picture-perfect with these two. However, Little People Big World fans recently had some alarming things to say about Chris. Recently, Little People Big World fans expressed unease over Chris Marek, particularly when it came to his reaction to Amy Roloff talking about possibly getting sick, as well as other complications arising from her having achondroplasia. One fan noted, "I'm getting extreme sketchy vibes from Chris. He's smiling when Amy is talking about her possibly getting sick or having complications from having dwarfism, and says he wouldn't worry about it until it's a real problem." A second commenter chimed in, saying, "It's like he's in denial, but also gives off a dismissive, even gaslighty vibe." Other Little People Big World fans took it one step further, accusing Chris of purposely going after someone with a condition to fulfill some sort of twisted fetish. Another commenter said, "Guy is a creep. Amy is stupid. I am an adult born with neurodisability. It is a thing. People so seek out disabled people for either fetishes or to convince themselves that they're a good person or to abuse." Little People Big World fans do like Chris, and not everyone thinks he has a hidden agenda when it comes to Amy. This is certainly some food for thought regarding his motives, however. This is more than enough for watchers to chew on as the current season continues. LPBW, Amy Roloff catches trespasser and loses it. Little People Big World celeb Amy Roloff is all business. Nothing gets past Matt Roloff's ex, including trespassers. Matt Roloff was on the receiving end of Amy's no-nonsense approach for years. That was nothing compared to what Amy did to an unwelcome trespasser in previous TLC scenes. When Amy Roloff isn't making fudge, being a grandmother to her grandkids, or spending quality time with Chris Marek, she is laying down the law. Amy doesn't let anything get past her. If she senses that someone is in the wrong, she goes after it like a shark that smells blood in the water. In recent Little People Big World Season 25 scenes, Matt Roloff and Amy Roloff lock horns over planning and organizing a charity event. Matt even jokes that Amy can flip the switch and become a dictator faster than he can. Amy is most comfortable when she is the only cook in the kitchen, and she has always been like that. With Little People Big World Season 25 on the air, a lot of viewers are going back to old scenes and talking about their favorite moments. An old clip is making the rounds online showing Amy confronting a trespasser on her property, and the claws certainly come out for the TLC celeb. In the Little People Big World clip, Amy Roloff demands a trespasser give her their camera and all the pictures they took, as they were on private property. Amy wastes no time getting into gear, as she runs this person off of her land. She even goes as far as to jump on top of the man inside his own vehicle to get the final word in and keep him from leaving before police arrive. Because this is an old clip making the rounds, Amy Roloff was much more agile back then compared to now. She faced down a trespasser that was well over 6 feet, and she didn't back down whatsoever. Little People Big World fans love this kind of tenacity from Amy. All these years later, fans appreciate how she doesn't take BS from anyone, whether it's a stranger, a trespasser, her ex-husband, or her current husband. One Little People Big World fan wrote, "Boy, Amy, you can hold your ground." Another commenter chimed in with, "Amy, you are one brave woman." A third follower said, "She is a savage. Lol." Amy may have put on some years since this classic scene, but she still has the same no-nonsense approach that viewers love. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.